The magnificence of the building seems out of place today in the midst of a neighborhood that is more gritty than grand. The Masonic Temple seems proud of its splendor and history. When it was completed in 1926, it was the largest building of its kind in the world.
The architect was a very famous architect named George Mason.
And he designed a building for the ages. While many of us think of it as an entertainment venue, the temple is so much more. It is 500,000 square feet, with 1,037 rooms and long, magnificent hallways connecting them all.
It's an outstanding venue, and everything that was built in this place was first class.
That includes the main auditorium, which has been the stage for dozens of plays and concerts. A second large auditorium is named for benefactor Jack White, and there's even a third auditorium that was never finished.
The main purpose of this building is to house the Masons of the city of Detroit.
There are 8 lodge rooms, each decorated in a different style. They're used for lodge meetings, but can also be rented by other groups for gatherings. This room is regularly used for weddings, and receptions are held in the Fountain Ballroom, or more often, the larger, more ornate Crystal Ballroom. And the building's drill hall is used for Detroit roller derby.
This is about 19,000 square foot of floor space that is built on a floating floor.
But recently, the temple has had trouble paying its bills. Singer-songwriter Jack White wrote a check for $142,000 to help pay off back taxes. But the announcement of a new stadium and entertainment district nearby have made the temple's future much brighter.
We have a lot of very exciting announcements and plans in the works for the next 2-3 years.
This building may soon house restaurants, shops, perhaps even apartments or a boutique hotel. This jewel that has for so long been underutilized may soon be courting investors.
And say, hey, come be a part of the temple, come be a part of Detroit's future.
So you have to read between the lines here. This is a Freudian slip. They're telling you they have all of this extra room and they don't know what to do with it. We're going to put restaurants and shops in here. And that's what's become of this beautiful old architecture, and it's really sad. Like, if you really look at and believe that these buildings were built to be prisons and post offices, like, that's just insane to me. So you just have to put yourself in the shoes of the alleged inhabitants and builders of these buildings. What are we told? Native Americans, slaves, cowboys, Great Depression era working class people. And what are we building? We're building a prison here. Okay, so a massive 500,000 square foot solid stone ornate prison to house the lowest of society, people who are stealing, raping, killing. No, I don't think so. I'm simply not buying that this building that we're currently looking at was built in 3 years, shortly before the Great Depression. Are we going to make a 500,000 square foot palace to deliver mail? No, I don't think so. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is that none of these buildings were built or are being used for what they were actually designed and built for. The evidence speaks for itself. I've shown the similarities in the symbology seen on this type of architecture found all around the world. They weren't built to be Masonic temples, MTV recording studios, coffee shops, post offices, prisons, or even Capitol buildings. The Freemasons got the Mason work for free. They did not fund it. They did not build it, and now they use this infrastructure to push degeneracy on us and subjugate us. Perfect examples being that of Jimmy Kimmel Live being shot in a Masonic lodge, the MTV Masonic Temple, the White House. And then you have, of course, the higher level up, Epstein, who was a handler and blackmailer of the Freemasons. Both his Paris and New York residence were beautiful, ornate old world buildings. And the higher up you move in the synagogue of Satan, the more of the world you are granted. That's what it's all about, serving yourself, hedonism. A perfect example of this is Wadston Manor the Rothschilds' estate in the United Kingdom. As I've shown in a few of my videos, there's been a concerted effort to hide and destroy the magnificence of these buildings, and the only people that get to dwell and own these buildings in their untouched forms are the highest levels of masonry and the powers that be above them. For example, Nathan Meyer Rothschild and Baron Ferdinand de Rothschild were both Freemasons. And it's said that Baron Rothschild funded and built Waddesdon Manor in the early to mid 1800s. Yes, Baron Ferdinand de Rothschild was an active Freemason. He was a founder, member, and the first master of the Ferdinand de Rothschild Lodge number 2420. Nathan Meyer Rothschild, Baron Nathan Meyer Rothschild, and Baron Ferdinand de Rothschild were all Freemasons.
Architecture and see the fine details such as the elaborate staircase towers and the interesting roof with its towers and spires. Before exploring the grounds, let's pop inside via the main entrance. Following this is a breakfast room which contains a glittering chandelier. Not sure I would enjoy that dazzling me in the mornings with a hangover. Another splendid room on the ground floor is the grand dining room with its ornate stucco decorations and mirrors which evoke a mini Versailles. I asked the staff but was disappointed to learn they were not going to serve me any dinner here. What a shame. The red drawing room is another very stylish room that is full of fascinating objects and paintings. Not to mention finely carved doors and fittings glittering with gold paint. They clearly didn't spare any expense with this place. The rest of the ground floor is full of similar spaces, and as I'm going to run out of suitable words to describe them all, I thought it best to show some highlights. After finishing the interior, it's time to explore the grounds. On the south side is the parterre, which is a French-inspired formal garden. This garden is where you can get the best views of the house with its lovely colourful flowers making a great foreground for photographs.
Up next, we have Tommy Hilfiger's Fairy Tale Estate. American fashion designer and retail tycoon Tommy Hilfiger has owned a whole host of unusual properties over the years, including a minimalist waterfront estate in Miami. However, this European-inspired home in Greenwich, New York is definitely his most impressive asset. The estate, which looks something out of a fairy tale, is definitely fit for fashion royalty. Hilfiger purchased the property, which was built in 1939, for a little over $31 million. The 22-acre estate provided plenty of bang for his buck and comes complete with a fountained rose garden, a boxwood knot garden, and a water garden with a koi pond, as well as a bean-shaped swimming pool and a tennis court. That's just the backyard. The property was originally called Chateau Paterno and was designed by architect Greenville Rickard for real estate magnate Charles V. Paterno. In the 1960s, entrepreneur, financier, and art collector Joseph Hirschhorn bought the estate and no doubt used the home's stunning walls to showcase his favorite art pieces.
The point that I'm really trying to drive home here is that all of these buildings are owned by occultists and Freemasons, people who have ties to Kabbalah and Egyptian Hermeticism, and Jay-Z and Beyonce are no exception, being tied to Marina Abramovich, John Podesta, who were involved with spirit cooking dinners and Pizzagate.
Common folk alike. Up next, we go to Beyonce and Jay-Z's New Orleans church. A far cry from their ultra-modern mega mansion in Los Angeles, Beyonce and Jay-Z are rumored to have made a rather unusual purchase in 2015. It's reported that the pair may have snapped up a converted church in the Garden District of New Orleans for a reported $2.6 million. Whispers of the supposed purchase began when a company linked to Beyonce's management was revealed to have signed on the dotted line. A dramatic staircase sits at the center of the living room, which is zoned into a lounge, kitchen, and dining area. The home also provides a loft-style sitting room and a library nook with a floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. The perfect spot for the Queen of Pop to unwind after a long day. The master suite is classically styled and comes with a large walk-in closet, as well as a generous-sized bathroom with a wooden vanity, a large antique bathtub, and a separate shower. With Beyonce's younger sister, Solange, having relocated to New Orleans in 2013, the former church, which is just off the main Mardi Gras parade route, would make the ideal base for family reunions.
Foreclosing fortress. While for most folks the idea of living in a castle exists only in the realms of imagination, the reality of this next property turned out to be nothing short of a real estate nightmare. Businessman Christopher Mark was the mind behind this one-of-a-kind property based on the fairy castles from his daughter's storybooks. Complete with a moat and towers rising 126 feet into the sky, this Gothic creation took a staggering 7 years to build between 2001 and 2008. Dubbed Christmark Castle, the property is nestled within 75 acres of sprawling forest, and the decor inside transports visitors back in time with its medieval design. There are 9 bedrooms and 10 bathrooms, all fit for royalty, as well as 12 fireplaces and wooden floors and doors built with over 25 different types of luxurious hardwoods. So what's the catch? You'd think somewhere as magical as this would have plenty of billionaire buyers banging down the door. However, this wonderland has been sitting on the market since 2014.
So this story makes no sense in and of itself because the building was supposed to be built for his daughter to be like a princess, and yet it was allegedly built from 2003 to 2010, and for this cause you put all of this money and effort into this just to list it as an investment property 4 years later.
2014, with an asking price of an out-of-this-world $60 million.
And the truth is, they don't actually want these buildings to sell. They want to destroy them, hide them, and hoard them for themselves. They use the buildings to subjugate and extort us, and the tunnels are used for smuggling, trafficking, and hiding old-world technology.
While you might think that the only reason no buyers have chosen to start a chapter at Christmark Castle is that extortionate price tag, there's a lot more to it than that. Turns out the current owner's private life is far from a fairy tale. In 2008, it was reported that Christopher was using the mansion to conceal a suspicious quote-unquote modeling agency that reportedly listed women for hire at $125 from the castle. This sketchy venture followed with a messy public divorce from his wife, alongside the untimely death of a camel living on the exotic animal refuge on the property, and Christopher also reportedly put his new girlfriend Marina and the child they had together out on the street, refusing to have anything to do with them besides the basic monthly minimum in child support payments. Given that Chris's castle is associated with all of this morally questionable behavior, it casts a gothic darkness over what may have been a charming home, turning into something altogether quite sinister and unnerving. The room in the basement dedicated to pole dancing and, other activities involving binding in cages doesn't exactly help the pure and innocent image either. While there may be no ghosts at Christmark Castle, it's safe to assume that there are plenty of dark secrets.
I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it is interesting to note on the topic of occultists that we see a cube in the basement of this building. Okay, I'm going to show you guys some really interesting stuff about Christmark Castle and its aerial location that always seems to be fudged throughout all of time. Anyways, this is my hometown, and this is right down the road from where I grew up. And we could see right here, right on this peninsula where Christmark Castle is supposed to be, the aerials from 1969. They are just a little bit weird in this area. Just this area right here. Everywhere else is fine. Anyways, you go through the years and you find that this area has a history of having weird aerial photos. So this is a more normal looking one, and what the shape should look like of the lake anyways. You go to 1971, and again you just have weird stuff almost cutting out all the way up to where the castle is supposed to be, or was actually at this point. And I believe all of these were photoshopped. But I mean, you go look again, and everything up to the right is fine. And it's just right when you get to this point, weird stuff going on. Whited out stuff, blacked out stuff. Got a more normal one, still weird looking. And this one's the really weird one. What is going on here? It looks like trees and land going into what was supposed to be the lake. This is obviously just smudged. Like, look at this. What is that? That straight line right there? Nah. This is weird. Okay, and now we're getting into the years prior to when they said it was built in 2003. Got a more normal looking lake again. Okay. $1891, and this is the year that the castle was supposed to be built. Like the first year of its 2003 to 2010 building process. And you see here, the 1, 2, 3, basically the entire castle here already built. No moat. But I believe that this was photoshopped. And you can see here this strange lighter green in the strip area where the moat is supposed to be. It looks blurry. This picture is intentionally blurry because you'll see in 2004. And we have again here basically the entire castle. And this just all looks very strange right here. It looks, I don't know, marshy, smudged. It just looks very strange in comparison to what we had seen so far. And again, you can see even in 2006 to 2003, the entire castle was there, no moat. Like I said, I think that this was photoshopped. And then you can see the moat slowly coming in. There's half of it, I guess, right? And again in 2009, now we have the entire moat 1 year later. And I mean, if you look at this building, it's basically the same exact building size of the building that we see in 2004 and 2003. So the entire building was done in 2003 at their starting date, allegedly. And between 2003 and 2010, all they did was a moat, which I don't believe. I think all of these pictures were just photoshopped. 2012, we see the best resolution finished deal with the moat and all. But anyways, I just think that that's very interesting what went on here. The entire shape of the island was changed. So 1980, we have the cove, water, right here. Distinct, which is leading into the moat. And then 1986, it shows the cove, right? Now you go back, and no cove. 1971, just straight through right here, land. And I'm going to prove right here that these photos are fudged. You can see here, this is what the shape should look like going into the moat. And you can see here in 1991, there was water right here going in towards this direction. And then in 2003, apparently that's all land. And it's just straight through here. That is proof that it's been photoshopped. So you mean to tell me, before they built this castle here, and knowingly were going to build a moat through here, they just decided to backfill this entire area, which is the size, 18,000 square feet, the size of the castle. I'm not buying it. I think here in 1991, this is the actual, well, technically the moat was actually there and the building, but I think this was the actual shape of the water the entire time. And you see, you have the cove and the cove, and then you go to 2006 and you have the cove and the cove, and then in 2003 you have to make it apparent that a moat is being built here, so you add land where you can clearly see that this was a curve and it's photoshopped. That's all I have for today. If anyone has any interesting topics, info, or video ideas, feel free to email them to me at the email below. And remember, The government is the dangerous, thieving, organized criminal enterprise you believe would take over in the absence of government. Thanks for watching. If you appreciate the content, be sure to turn on bell notifications, like, comment, share, or subscribe.